Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chad Rocke with the Phi team here in Denver. And today we are hosting the Invest in Denver podcast with my buddy, colleague, fellow real estate agent, Ian.
Nice.
We're going to talk about kind of a, I don't know if you'd call it an emergency podcast, but I would say we wanted to get this out there and talk market conditions. Ian and I are seeing a change. And so we wanted to get this. We're the boots on the ground. We were both out doing 5, 10 showings the past 2 days, talking to agents, talking to buyers, running into other buyers. And so we wanted to get this out here as quickly as possible and just share our boots on the ground opinion of maybe a shift in the market here.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Especially like with me being an agent for maybe about a year and a half now, going from a hot seller's market from 2022, late 2021, all the way until maybe about July or August of 2022, where like interest rates were increasing so fast. And all the buyers were like, whoa, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Maybe we'll just wait on the showings, wait on getting pre-approved and see how much of our buying power is still there, especially when we're still looking. And then here we are now where buyers are creeping out of their out of the Hobbit knoll or whatever might want to call it, the Shire, out of their homes from there. Like, okay, I mean, I guess it's not too scary out here anymore. So that now they're seeing that the buying power is staying consistent now, with mortgage rates staying around that 6.5%, 7% or whatever that might be if you're owner occupied or investment loan. And then they can work out the numbers as the months go by. So with that being said, Chad, thank you so much for hanging out, man. There's so much to catch up on, but we'll make it pretty quick here. I know there's a lot to catch up on based on what we are even seeing the past couple of weekends. So even like a couple of weeks ago when you first saw that, hey, there's some sort of change in the market going on right now, because a lot of the buyers were sort of holding back, like I mentioned earlier, and a lot of sellers were not exactly putting more houses or more inventory on the market. So nowadays, I guess I'm not seeing too much more inventory, but the buyers are coming out of the woodworks. So let me start off this
Mhm.
question with a couple of weeks ago, where like, where did you start to see that transition? And at what point where you had that flick of the switch of like, okay, something interesting is going on here?
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, I guess just to your point, leading up to that, of the last, like you said, of July of last year, interest rates just went through the roof basically overnight. There's this sticker shock of rates were 3, now they're 7. My payment was 1,800, now it's 3,800,
Hmm.
and it's like, whoa, I can't afford this.
Yeah.
And everybody just like froze, and it was all the way up and through December. I saw a couple of my buyers pick up. We were still we got out there, got a couple under contract, but it was under asking. Um, the last one I would say was December 15th or so. Got one under contract. $20,000 of seller concessions. It appraised $30,000 above what our contract price is, and the dude's he's living the dream right there of like all of closing costs covered, um, and and it appraised like amazingly. That was December 15th. We don't close until January 31st, so that was still that time period where things were slow, under asking, can ask for the world, ask for the concessions. I would say like January, just 2 weeks ago, January, like the first week of January, had some people, holidays is over, they want to get out there and start looking at houses. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. One particular buyer of mine, she texted me on Monday, sent me 3 houses, and I was like, yeah, let's go see these, this weekend, Thursday, Friday. Went to book them on Tuesday, and one's pending. One, when I pull, you can, as agents, we can pull up the time slots of the viewings. And the last 6 months, like there was no problem getting showings anytime you wanted. There was no other showings. In contrast, like you were saying, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, you'd have to fight for these time slots.
Mm.
Like sometimes you couldn't even see it. So then it went to zero. And then I went to book this one last 2 weeks ago, and I saw like 4 other showings on the same day. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Mm.
Haven't seen this in a while. And then the one pending. So it really, to answer your question, it really was like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was like, something seems to be shifting here.
Hmm. Why do you think now not much has changed over the past couple months with interest rates or maybe even inventory, but it seems like the buyers are seeing something that is not very evident. Maybe it's something personal versus any other time that's, based on market stats, inventory, interest rates, things like that. But it seems like everyone's on some sort of roll here. You know what I mean? Is there anything you can put your finger on that might identify, like, okay, this is the reason why people are starting to look into buying again?
Yeah. My 2 cents on it, I don't think there's any data to necessarily back this up, but just my boots on the ground internal philosophy on it is a couple things. One, holidays. I mean, December is always the slowest month. So if people are traveling, agents are traveling, um, buyers are traveling, and those last 2 weeks, no one's around. And maybe it's that New Year's resolution, buy a house this year. But December is just slow in general. And so get back and start looking. You're back in town. That's one thing. Another thing is rates are creeping down. They continually, I think it was 4 weeks in a row. They were down 4 or 5 weeks in a row. They were down, slightly, nothing major. So rates are coming down. The other thing is that sticker shock of the 3 to 7, like that's gone, that's starting to settle in here. And people are realizing this is the reality of rates are 5 to 6.5. That's where it's going to be. So what's the alternative? Sit and wait for rates to maybe come down, continue to rent, throw away $3,200 a month. I had a
Mhm.
conversation yesterday with a buyer. She's like, I am so sick of paying $3,000 a month for rent.
Mm.
And there's rumors. I know the rumors are true that they're going to raise the rent come July. And she's like, I am not doing that again.
Mm.
So that's, her motivation of like, this enough's enough.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I think rates creeping down, reality setting in, holidays are behind us. Um, Seems to be what my buyers are kind of in
Mhm.
that. Some of them are one of them moving here, and he was just waiting for some confirmation from a job, and now he got that confirmation. Ball's rolling forward. So yeah, I think that's kind of what leads into it.
Yeah, I think so too, especially with December being pretty slow for me as well. Not too many showings going on. But nowadays, like I had a pretty packed day with showings, not only mine, but like helping out other agents as well. And their buyers are looking, you know, much more often and in various different places as well. So I guess going into a little bit more context for the audience here. So right now we're recording this January 22nd. Yesterday was Saturday, so we both had full days, and a bunch of other fight team agents have had full days of showings on the 21st, the day before. So by the time that this episode comes out on Friday, which I believe is the 27th, you guys are getting the up-to-date, cutting-edge information that we're seeing with boots on the ground. And I'm sure not much is going to be changing from here until Friday, but who knows? Who knows at this point? So, with your experience the past weekend, Chad, I know you had a busy one, and I can go into my details as well. But what are you seeing with the past couple of showings? Maybe you saw some more, or I guess maybe tighter scheduling because more people are booking these showings. And what are your offers looking like right now compared to even 3 weeks ago or even last year?
Yeah. Let me take one step back and just last weekend, what I saw.
Hmm.
Last weekend was the first. So leading up into January, like I was saying, like no offers, under asking for the world. 2 weeks ago, I went to offer on a house, and it was in the Sherwood area, and it was listed 533, and it was a nice house. It was a non-conforming duplex, so um, one upstairs, one downstairs, a 2 bed, 1 bath up, 2 bed, 1 bath down, separate kitchen, separate entrance. So what we look for, right? Like
Yep.
um, that was listed on a Monday. It was under contract on Wednesday, 31,000 over asking.
Hmm.
Um, and like that is part of it too, of this light switch of like, okay, it's been a while since I've seen. over asking, let alone 30,000 over asking. And like 530 is not priced ridiculously. That seems right in the ballpark. It wasn't like it was listed at 450, and someone went 500. It was priced right, and it was 31K over asking.
Hmm.
So that was last weekend. This weekend, there's a house again in like the Welby neighborhood, which is just east of the Sherwood area. Great house, probably listed low, 475 range. Knew everything, and they were under. It was listed on Monday. It went under contract Tuesday. So again, right away, it was terminated because I think they got cold feet or something like some weird situation happened. But they terminated, went back to market. He held 2 open houses this weekend. They have 4 offers in as of right now.
Hmm.
One of them, so hopefully can lock that one up. But yeah, just that. Getting more offers. It's over asking, significantly over asking. A couple other houses I saw. One was a very interesting one. This may or may not apply to a lot of the listeners, but it was a disgusting hoarder house. It was so bad, but it was a very deceiving listing. The listing agent pulled like these photoshopped images and said, clutter has been removed for like viewing purposes or something like that. And I was like, okay, like it's interesting. Like that's a very, very big understatement of when you say clutter. We're talking bad hoarder house. But it was listed 510. We went in at 430 because it was bad, and we got beat out at the last second by a cash offer that was more than 430. So not necessarily exactly kind of what we're talking about here, but just another story of the weekend. That's kind of what I saw.
Yeah, that buyer in particular with the interest in the hoarder house, were they flippers, investors, or what were they trying to do with the property?
Yeah, it was going to be a primary. He is an experienced investor, and so he's actually moving here from out of state and looking to buy he's from here, so he's looking to buy his next house. And funny enough, I closed on a house 1 block over in December, and that one closed at 620, and we were going to get this at 430. And so he just saw like the potential in it.
Yeah, big bummer. Those cash offers are coming back in too. I haven't seen that in a long time as well. It's just so interesting how that can change so quick, and people are coming to the realization of going back to the story of your client that's like, I don't want to live in a place that's owned by someone else and getting rent raised on me. It's like, whose mortgage are you going to pay? Yours or someone else's, right? At a certain point, you have to have that realization and really come to terms with, okay, this is probably the best time to do it before things start heating up again, literally and figuratively, with the market and summertime approaching. Because during the wintertime, I mean, if it's anything from last year or like last year with myself, it was a little bit slower, right? Although once March hit, I hit the ground running at that point. So with that being said too, like I was, so we're interested in 2 properties. One is over in Aurora. It's a 5-bed, 2-bath, but the rehab work was not the best. Main floor has this sort of open floor plan, has 3-bed, 1-bath upstairs, 2-1 downstairs. And I found it to be a little bit weird that we saw in the basement that on the baseboards, there was some like water leak, or at least, like damage, if you will, not necessarily damage, but I saw staining on the baseboards, and then, I don't know, some like minor details about it. But when I was booking the showing for it, there was a lot of people going into it. And when I called up the listing agent after we got out or after the showing for like feedback and things like that, he said that with this house that has been on the market for the past 90 days, he now has 2 offers in. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, I don't know why now versus any other time, which, we've explained already. It could be the winter. It could be a bunch of other things, being concerned with what their interest rates are right now. And then the other place was over in Sherwood. We were talking about this before we pressed record, where it was closer to this water tower, bunch of solar panels, and it has that same unconformed or non-conforming duplex where you have that separate entrance, garage going to the basements. Really clutch. And my client likes both of them. So he's a hungry guy. He wants to get into it and try to buy it as soon as possible.
Nice.
So for those buyers that are sort of on the fence now, and now that they're hearing this story, Chad, what do you suggest for those potential buyers to really push them to like, hey, this is a good time to go? I mean, if we're seeing this pickup now in the middle of January, imagine what it's going to be like in March. Or is there anything that you would like to impose as far as information just to push them a little bit further?
Yeah, that was the exact same conversation I had earlier today with a buyer. She's going to just pump the brakes just a hair to kind of get ducks in a row. But I was like, yeah, I understand that. Some other expenses on a previous house. And so it was like, no, I get it. Maybe we wait a week or two, but that's the exact same thing I saw. If we're seeing this in January 22nd, mid to late January, I'm a little nervous about March.
Mm.
Uh, if we're seeing 30K over, this other one is 35K over that I offered on. If we're seeing that in January,
Mm.
and if rates tick down, if they continue to tick down, which I think they could come down a little bit and settle in like the upper five sixes range where they're like 6.25, 6.5 right now. That's just going to intensify this even more. So to answer your question, one thing is you gotta jump on it fast. It's even a little bit different right now where before, when it was crazy, things would come on the market Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Agents know they're going to get 5, 10, 15 offers in. So the offer deadline is Sunday night, Monday morning. And so you have like, you know that, all right, this is what's going to happen. What I'm seeing now is, and I wanted to make this point too. Right now, sellers and agents may not know this shift is going on. Like some agents only work with sellers, and they know what happened three months ago, and they're preparing. This could take a while. We need to price it aggressively, and I'm seeing that too. Of like this one, it was priced low, and I think maybe because he's thinking 2-3 months ago mindset, not 2 weeks ago mindset. And so you can jump on these deals right now. But yeah, and so now things are going on, and they're worried they're not going to get any other offers, so they just take it. So they'll go to market Monday, they'll get an offer Tuesday. Oh wow, we got an offer. We can't wait till we might not get any more offers. Like let's take it.
Yeah.
And it's gone on Tuesday, and like you don't even get a chance. So you got to be on top of it, is what I'm seeing. If it comes out on Monday morning, text your agent. Dude, let's go see this. It popped up. You go see it Monday. Go see it Tuesday morning because it could be gone. If it's priced right, it'll be gone. So that's one thing. I guess the other two is just, there's always like the refinance aspect of it. I hate to like, if my numbers don't work where they're at now, I don't want to bank on a refi, but there's a better chance of rates coming down at 6.5 than there is at rates when they're at 3. Like at 3, rates aren't going to come down. Like you're locked in.
Right.
So I feel better about it, but you don't want to bank on that. And so, if it's close right now, you're going to get that appreciation. You're going to get the principal pay down, especially if you're house hacking and someone else is paying it down for you. Mm-hmm. What's the alternative? Is it continuing to rent? Well, we know that's not a good option in really any scenario. Maybe you're not cash flowing $1,000 like you were last year or 2 years ago, but maybe you're paying $500 instead of paying $2,000 in rent. So it's still like a massive savings. And the other beautiful thing about real estate is that your mortgage either stays the same or your refi goes down. Rents always go up. Over the long term, rents go up. And so maybe today you're making, nothing, you're flat. But 5 years from now, you refied, rents go up. Now you're making money. So thinking bigger picture. So yeah, I think just now is still a great time. I had this conversation this morning too of it kind of sucks. Like we were talking about numbers and like, okay, we can cover closing costs will be covered. Well, that's kind of gone now. I mean, those people that waited,
Oh
you
man.
just lost, you just lost 8 grand. Like not all the time. I mean, there's still those
Yeah.
deals out there, but um, the last 4 months, I would say 90% guarantee we can get your closing costs covered.
Yeah.
Today, yeah, hit or miss. I don't know.
Yeah. That's another thing that I'm worried about too, especially with writing an offer on this place. So this is our first time like doing tours, doing showings with my buyer that was out with me yesterday. And we want to move quick too. And that's the biggest concern here is how soon can we turn this over without the listing agent realizing that, hey, we're making a good deal out of this for us at this time in the market with this sort of switch going on right now of like closing costs not taken care of. Egress windows are no longer part of the normal equation here because I was almost banking on it the past 6 months. And here we are now where that conversation might not happen, right? Or the negotiations just might not turn it in our favor all the time. But I want to go back to what you were mentioning of your answer to those people that are on the fence in this time in the market of being on top of it. So being on top of it, I know you mentioned a glimpse of it where it's like, hey, if it's on the market and it fits all your criteria, at least on the photos, on the descriptions, the specs and things like that, go see it. Is there anything else that the buyer should be prepared for prior to going to see that place or maybe right after it? Is there anything else that they can see or be more prepared to be quote unquote on top of it?
Yeah, I think you're teeing me up for a conversation we had before before we started of making sure you're pre-qualified. Is that what you're leading to?
One of them, yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, I mean that's yeah. I ran into this today too. Of people are always eager; they want to get out there, right? And let's go start seeing them, and we're growing, and then it's like, oh, where do we actually get the down payment from? Like,
Mm,
oh, are we actually like are we ready to go? And that happens. I mean, everybody goes through it, and it's part of the journey, right? Of like, I never get mad about that, but it's like, what did we just do the last 2 weekends? If if you're not like if we're here, we found the house, right? Like, let's go.
right.
But yeah, I guess, and I mean, it's frustrating from the buyer's perspective too. Of like, oh, like, gosh, if I had all the ducks in a row, we were ready. So yeah, just make sure finances are in order. Where's that down payment coming from? If there's some other like investors you're partnering up, make sure everybody's aligned. But just having the conversation with the lender as well, and getting all right at 500, this is what my principal, interest, taxes, insurance payments going to be. At 600, this is what it's going to be, and just be ready to like throw these numbers into your calculator and your
Mhm.
analysis to this is my air DNA or this is my rent by the room number at 600. And so just having those figures from a lender perspective, like 600 here, 550 here, 500 here, break it all down. You can pull out your one sheeter when you're looking at houses and you mentally run through the numbers. So yeah, the pre-qualification, where the money's coming from, any partnership agreements, everyone's on the same page. Um, that would be kind of, obviously strategy is going to play into it of if you want to for sure short-term rent and you don't want it to, you don't want it to have to be your primary residence. So there's certain areas of Denver, the metro area, where you need to focus on. So it's, the North Glen, Wheat Ridge, Arvada, unincorporated Adams County, um, Westminster, a little bit with an asterisk. So those kind of 5 places are a lot of times my focus for short-term rentals that don't have to be your primary. So if that's the buyer's goal, then we need to focus on those areas. If
Mm,
they're open to medium-term rentals, long-term rentals, rent by room, like they could go short-term rental, but they don't have to. Well, that's going to open us up, Aurora and Denver and Lakewood. And so I guess just knowing that criteria, I don't think you have to have like, I for sure I'm going to do this plan. Like you got to be a little bit nimble, right? If the short term rental doesn't work out or you don't like it, you can switch to midterm rental, rent by room. But just knowing what areas you want to focus on, what strategy in general is going to help steer that criteria search of where you're looking at houses. You don't want to be looking at in Denver, Lakewood, if you for sure want a short term rent.
Yeah, 100%, man. And part of that scare of putting in offers at, let's say, maybe going over asking, and if we're going into that territory now, it's something to talk about. So I know with going into 2022, a lot of people were going in 50K, 70K, even 100K over asking price. And the biggest concern during that time was, will it appraise? So nowadays, I'm sort of like keeping that in the back of my mind. Like the previous 6 months, not so much, because I was pretty confident, especially with all those comps that were 50K to 100K over asking. I was able to appraise very easily, meaning it appraised at my offer price or above. But as of right now, that conversation is happening again. It's like, will it appraise? So are you seeing that right now with those that you're going under contract with? And how has it been the past month or two?
Yeah. I guess just in general, my appraisal opinion, I've really like had, it's like 95% have always appraised, no matter what
Mm.
the scenario is, which is kind of crazy. Even, I mean, one quick example, the highest height of last year, like March, April, May, it was listed 560. Closest comps were 550, 560 range. We had to go all the way up to 611, 612, and got it with a full appraisal gap, using this strategy with that. But I was not confident at all. And I actually met the appraiser there. From a buyer's side, you usually don't meet the appraiser there, but I was like, I got to do everything possible. So I show up, and she gets out of her car. I get out of my car, like, hi, how you doing? And she looks at her notebook, and she's like, not too many good comps on this one at this price point. I was like, well, I don't necessarily disagree, but you look at this market, it's crazy. She's like, yeah, yeah, we'll be able to get there. I'm like, you didn't even step inside the house. Like, she took one step out of her car, and she already told me, like, we'll be able to get there. I was like, okay, well, that's good news. So sort of praised. So there's that one. There was one actually a little bit more recent and probably more relevant, was again Sherwood, closed December 10th of last year, under contract beginning of November. Um, Under contract, I think it was listed 580. We got it at 560 with 15K seller credits. It's like a 545 net, but 560. Again, the closest comp I saw, 530. Like, I felt really good at 530. There was one at 540. Nothing really in the 560 range unless you went like 2-3 miles away in a completely different neighborhood. And I told the agent, like, I'm not too confident in this one.
Hmm.
He's like, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, which that's what you always do on that. And it appraised, no problems.
Wow.
So yeah, to your points, I mean, it definitely is something. Does it always happen that way? No. I've had a couple that haven't, and you just figured out. I would say, like, I think we're still in the market where, as a buyer and a buyer's agent, I'm not paying that appraisal gap
Hmm.
yet. Maybe ask me next week if things continue crazy here, but I don't really want to be in that position quite yet of
Hmm.
offering full appraisal gap, because, yeah, I mean, as of right now, we really shouldn't be paying more. I mean, there's enough houses. I think there's enough deals where you don't have to pay that as of right now, but that could change here. But even when
Yeah.
it does change, like, the strategy of just going appraisal gap, and getting it and crossing the bridge when you get there has worked.
Yeah, that language and putting that in offers was definitely indicative of, I really want this house and I'm desperate, in my opinion, because that's just so much out of pocket if it just does not appraise well. Like even 20K that just is needed to close on this home. That's insane to me. And a lot of my buyers that are first time home buyers or house hackers, they need that 20K or whatever that difference
Oh
is.
yeah,
So it comes to the realization of, there's two things in my opinion. we're not in that market yet to have that language in our offers. Like you mentioned, like ask me next week or maybe even next month before we even consider that. And number one, like we have more inventory now than we did back in the height of 2022. I think we're up by like a couple thousand, which is like 50% more than what it was earlier last year, like March, April, May of 2022. And not only
Yeah.
that, but buyers are pretty apprehensive with getting into a house at that 6 to 7% interest rate range. You know, it's almost like the stalemate right here, right now, you know, where still we have really high interest rates, which pushes back buyers, and we still have, you know, a good amount of inventory, but not like a significant amount. So I think it's an interesting time to be a buyer in these days, especially even a seller. Like my brother's selling his place as well. And he's worried, but I sort of update him as I'm seeing like showings go, or as I progress through this market as well. I mean, when I first heard you talk about it a couple of weeks ago, I was like, no way, there's no way that that would have changed so quick, right? And here we are now. Like I'm finally experiencing like, okay, showings are getting tightened up and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
with that being said, Chad, I mean, is there any sort of like knowledge that you want to impart to the general Denver community? Is there anything that you're expecting in the next couple of months? Maybe even when spring happens? Or do you have any crystal ball reflections on it?
Um, I'll do my best crystal ball. I mean, best guess, just the boots on the ground, kind of what I'm seeing now. You know, obviously nobody knows. I do know that the best time to buy real estate was 10 years ago or 5 years ago or yesterday. It's always sometime in the past. And I know that buying today, it's going to be worth more in 5 or 10 years. And so if you're in it for the long term, just buy. It doesn't matter. Like, don't turn the news off. I mean, people always ask me all the time of like, well, what about this recession and the wars and the gas prices and, you know, the president and this and that. I'm like, just turn the news off. Just the house is going to be worth more in 10 years. Someone's going to pay it off for you. You're going to get cash flow, if not now, like in the near future. If the numbers make sense, just buy the house. Like, just don't do this to me. Like, don't be that person that wish they would have bought in a year from now. Just do it. I know your first one's tired. You know, it's hard. It's a massive expense. But if you got the right team, the right systems, you ran the numbers, you get the handyman, the property management, whatever it is, which your agent should be helping you with, shameless plug, then it'll work out. Like, you just got to do it. And so back to the crystal ball, I think we alluded to a little bit of, if we're seeing this in January, if rates come down, I think March, April, May is going to be crazy again. It might not, it's not going to be as crazy because rates are still up there. Rates aren't 3%, right?
Yeah.
So maybe 20 over, 30 over, 40 over, maybe, you know, 3, 4, 5 other offers. Not getting all of your inspection items taken care of, not getting 10, 15, 20K of concessions. That's probably going away. So now, like, you know, it's time to jump, time to go see, if you see it, go see it, get it locked up. There's no sense of waiting. This is actually one more point too of, sometimes people will be like, you know, let's go see it on Friday, you know, it's a Monday. And then that gives so many more time to get offers in. That's another thing I always see, or some buyers say like, oh, let's just see what happens with it. Like, no, like, do you want a deal? If you want a deal, we got to offer it today, right? Like, there's no other offers. If you don't want a deal, then let's wait until they have another offer and we've lost all of our leverage. And now we're going by their terms, not ours. So everyone always talks about this deal. Get out, see it, put the offer in and get it. You'll get a deal. If you want to sit around.
Early bird gets the word at that worm at that point. And couple of things too is with a lot of people that are worried about like the wars, interest rates, things like that. Like, oh, I'm going to be losing value if you know, the real estate market begins to crash or correct or whatever the C word they want to put in there. You know, but the thing is that in my opinion, buy and hold is always a solid investment strategy. If you're a flipper, maybe that's something that you think about. Maybe this is something that you would strongly consider, especially with like holding times, what the contractors are going to be like, what the market is going to be like, especially when you put it back on the market. But if you're a buy and hold investor and you plan on holding onto this thing for like 5 years, nothing matters. People will always need a place to stay. And it always comes back to that fundamental fact here. And a lot of people often forget that we're in the business of providing people housing. And that's one of the basic necessities of humans. So that being said, Chad, I appreciate your update and all this good stuff. This is, something that other people should hear about, and including myself. Like, I want to know what you're up to. I know you're always like checking out houses. So with that being said, Chad, I want to make sure that other people can follow you or at least understand a little bit more about you. So how can they reach out to you or find you?
Yeah, for sure. Email. I've always got my phone, always checking email. So email is chad@thephyteam.com. So I'm on there. LinkedIn, if I kind of push towards LinkedIn as my kind of social media platform. So push content out there all the time. So just find me on LinkedIn, Chad Rocke, and then just connect, and I'll connect back with you. And then yeah, that's where it obviously, if you put my number down below, but my number's I'm always available to text. Like, kind of a bad habit of I'm always texting people at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, but I love this stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
passionate about it. But 715-550-1731.
Excellent. And you do have a meetup as well. I'm, getting that face-to-face contact with you, have a conversation, get to know you a little bit better with a couple of beers if you're into that stuff. You have that meetup over at Zeppelin Station, yeah?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes, actually meet up this Thursday, the 26th. Usually last Thursday of the month, typically at Zeppelin Station in Denver, 6 to 8 on the Meetup app or meetup.com. You just type in House Hackers Meetup, and then all of our team's events will be listed there. But yeah, I'd love to grab a beer, and I keep it super informal. Some of our meetups are a little bit more formal, the guest speaker presentation. Mine just very chill, no agenda, no speaker. Just we're grabbing beers and we're talking anything real estate and related underneath the sun of long-term rental, medium-term rental, creative financing, rental arbitrage, partnerships. We could talk it all.
Dude, it's becoming such a hot topic these days with Subject 2. And it's weird how that's sort of coming up with ChatGPT and AI coming in the mix as well. Like, I don't even know what to focus on anymore. Is it real estate at that point? This is so crazy to me that what a time to be alive at this point. But nonetheless, Chad does come up with some really good meetups, fantastic time. And if you're hungry too, they got food over there too. So it's really good stuff. Good beer, good food, good vibes. Definitely go check out Chad's meetup every last Thursday of the month. So also hit him up. Chad gave you guys his phone number as well. I am Ian Jimeno, Ian.realestateagent. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm pretty active on social media. Put out stuff weekly, especially for you house hackers out there, every Tuesday. And then the podcast like this is coming out every Friday. So something for everyone here. My grandma follows me and subscribes too, so you should as well. So something for everyone here. And with that being said, this is the Invest in Denver podcast hosted by yours truly, Ian Jimeno. Thanks so much, Chad Rocke, for hanging out with me, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it, man.